Greg Walsh stared out the viewport as the alien ship approached a massive space station. The structure was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It looked like several giant rings connected to a central hub with countless lights glowing against the darkness of space. 24 hours ago, Greg had been a simple mechanic in a small town on Earth. Now he was the consort of Lyra Vexer, elite commander of the Arcturus Defense Force. The alien woman stood beside him, her blue skin shimmering under the ship lights. "We are approaching Arcturus Prime," Lyra said. Her voice had a musical quality that Greg found strangely soothing. "The High Council awaits our arrival. They are eager to meet the first human to join our ranks." Greg swallowed nervously. What exactly should I expect? Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. The touch still felt foreign but not unpleasant. "You will be presented to the council as my consort. They will ask you questions about Earth and human culture. They may seem cold at first, but it is merely their way." The ship docked with a gentle bump. Greg followed Lyra through gleaming corridors. Other aliens stopped to stare at him. Some whispered to each other. Their expressions were hard to read, but Greg sensed a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. They entered a large circular chamber. 12 tall alien figures sat in raised seats forming a half circle. The center figure rose as they entered. Her skin was a deeper blue than Lyra's, and she wore elaborate robes that seemed to flow like water. "Commander Vexer," the central figure spoke. "You return with the human consort as promised." Lyra bowed her head. "Yes. High Elder. This is Greg Walsh of Earth. He has accepted the bonding according to our ancient laws." The High Elder studied Greg with glowing amber eyes similar to Lyra's but somehow older, wiser. "Step forward, human." Greg moved closer, trying to stand tall, despite feeling very small in this chamber of giants. "You have joined with one of our most valued warriors," the Elder continued. "Your species is unknown to us beyond our preliminary scans. What can you tell us about humans that we should know?" Greg cleared his throat. "Humans are adaptable," he began. "We have survived on our planet through countless challenges. We value freedom, choice, and connection. We can be stubborn but also kind. We fight for what we believe in but also seek peace when possible." The Elder nodded slowly, exchanging glances with the others. "And why did you agree to this?" "Bonding. You left your world behind." Why? Greg looked at Lyra, then back to the council. "To help protect Earth from the Draxan threat." And he added honestly, "Because I was offered a chance at something greater than the life I had." This answer seemed to please them. The Elder gestured to a smaller alien who approached carrying what looked like a thin metallic collar. "This translator will help you understand all languages in the Alliance," the Elder explained. "It will also begin the process of teaching you our ways." The device was placed around Greg's neck. It felt cool against his skin, but not uncomfortable. Immediately, the alien words around him became clearer, not just translated, but somehow making more sense. The High Elder spoke again. "Commander Vexer will oversee your integration. You will be given quarters in the military district. You will begin training immediately. The Draxan threat grows and we must prepare. You may be the first human in our midst, but if your world is to be protected, you will not be the last." After the audience with the council, Lyra led Greg to their new home, a spacious apartment with views of the alien city stretching below them. The architecture was all curves and spirals, buildings that seemed to grow rather than being built. Greg felt dizzy, trying to take it all in. "These are our quarters," Lyra said. "You will find the environmental controls adjusted for your comfort. The food synthesizer has been programmed with Earth nutrients. Though the flavors may seem strange at first," Greg touched the walls. They felt warm, almost alive. "This is all so strange," he whispered. "Where do we go from here?" Lyra stepped closer, studying him with those intense eyes. "Tomorrow, your training begins. You must learn our combat techniques, our technology, our customs. But tonight," she added, her voice softening, "you should rest. The genetic modifications from the bonding ceremony will begin to manifest soon. You may experience discomfort." Greg felt a strange tingling in his extremities. "Already?" Lyra nodded. "The changes. will be subtle at first. Enhanced senses, improved strength, increased longevity. Nothing that will change who you are, just improve what you can. Greg sat on what appeared to be a bed, though it conformed to his body in a way no Earth mattress ever. Had you said I was chosen because of special genetic markers? What did that mean exactly? Lyra sat beside him, her weight barely shifting the strange material. Some humans possess genetic sequences that are remarkably compatible with Arcturian physiology. You are one of these humans. With the modifications, your DNA will allow you to father children with me. Children that will be stronger than either human or Arcturian alone. The idea of having children with this alien warrior made Greg's head spin, but strangely he wasn't opposed to the idea. Just overwhelmed, will I ever see Earth again? Of course, Lyra replied, you are now a bridge between our worlds. Once your training is complete, we will return to Earth together, to warn them, to help them prepare. Greg lay back staring at the ceiling, which seemed to shimmer with faint constellations. What have I gotten myself into? He wondered. But despite the strangeness, despite the fear of the unknown, he felt something else too. Excitement, purpose. For the first time in his life he was part of something important, something bigger than himself. That night as he drifted to sleep in the alien bed, Greg dreamed of Earth, of his small apartment and monotonous job. But instead of nostalgia, he felt as if he was looking at a cage he had escaped. And despite everything, he was glad. Meanwhile, outside their quarters, Lyra spoke quietly with her second-in-command. Cora. The purple-skinned warrior looked concerned. Are you certain about this human? Cora asked. He seems so fragile. Lyra watched the sleeping form of her new consort through the monitor. The scanners show his genetic adaptation is already beginning, she said. There is more to this human than meets the eye. Much more. The prophecy speaks of an outsider who will turn the tide against the Draxon. He may be the one. Cora looked skeptical. You put much faith in ancient words. Lyra turned to her friend. I put faith in what I see. And I see something in him. Something that will surprise us all in his sleep. Greg smiled, unaware of the destiny that awaited him, or the role he would play in the coming war. A war that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire Alliance. 3 months had passed since Greg arrived on Arcturus Prime. His body had changed considerably. He stood taller, his muscles more defined. His reflexes were faster than any human could achieve. His mind processed information at an incredible rate. The genetic modifications had transformed him into something between human and Arcturian. Today would be his first real test. Greg stood in the combat arena, facing 3 Arcturian warriors. They circled him, weapons ready. These were not training staffs, but real energy blades capable of serious damage. The High Council had ordered this trial to assess his progress. Tarek, his combat instructor, stood at the edge of the arena. This is not training, he reminded Greg. This is combat. You must defeat all 3 opponents to pass. Greg took a deep breath, centering himself as he had been taught. He held his own energy blade, a weapon he had only recently been allowed to use. The familiar weight felt good in his hand. The first warrior attacked without warning. Greg parried the blow. The energy weapons crackling as they met. He spun away using the defensive forms Tarek had drilled into him for months. The warrior pressed forward, aggressive, confident. Greg waited for his opening. When the warrior overextended, Greg struck a quick, precise blow that disabled his opponent's weapon. The warrior stepped back, acknowledging defeat. The second and third attacked together. More difficult. Greg moved with new speed and grace, his enhanced body responding instantly. To his commands, he blocked, ducked, rolled, and struck in a fluid dance that seemed to surprise even Tarek. When it was over, all 3 warriors stood disarmed. Greg remained in fighting stance, barely winded. Tarek approached, his usually stern face showing a hint of pride. You have learned well, he said. For a human, you fight like a true Arcturian. High praise. Greg knew from the taciturn instructor. Lyra had watched the combat from the observation deck. She met Greg as he left the arena. You have passed the first trial, she said. Her eyes shone with pride, but also something else. Something deeper. What comes next? Greg asked, wiping sweat from his brow. The council wishes to see you. Lyra replied. They have been monitoring your progress. They have questions. Greg followed Lyra to the council chamber. The 12 elders sat in their customary semicircle. The High Elder gestured for Greg to approach. Greg Walsh Vexer, she began. We have observed your adaptation to our ways. Your combat skills have progressed beyond expectations. Your understanding of our technology and culture is impressive for one not born among us. Thank you, High Elder Greg said. Bowing his head slightly as was customary, the elder continued, but physical skills and knowledge are not all that. Make a warrior of the Alliance, we must know your heart, your loyalties. Where do they lie, human? With Earth or with Arcturus? Greg considered the question carefully. My loyalty is to both. He answered honestly. Earth is my birthplace, my origin. But Arcturus has become my home. My future. I believe the Alliance offers the best hope for both worlds. The elders exchanged glances. Then the High Elder spoke again. There is a mission, a dangerous one. Lyra Vexer has been assigned to lead it. She has requested that you accompany her. This will be your second trial. Greg looked at Lyra. She met his gaze steadily. I am ready, he said. 3 days later, Greg found himself aboard Lyra's command ship, the Stellar Blade. They were headed to a border system where Draxon activity had been detected. Their mission was to gather intelligence on a suspected new weapon. Lyra briefed her team in the command center. Her second Cora, the purple-skinned warrior Greg had met when he first arrived, stood beside her. Other high-ranking Arcturians filled the room. Greg noticed that he was no longer receiving suspicious glances. Most of the crew had come to accept him. Our scouts report Draxon ships gathering near the Vega system. Lyra explained. They appear to be testing a new type of energy cannon, one capable of destroying planets from a distance. We must confirm this intelligence and, if possible, sabotage their efforts. Greg studied the holographic display showing the Draxon fleet formations. With his enhanced mind, he noticed something odd. The pattern doesn't make sense, he said, pointing to the display. If they're testing a weapon, why position ships here and here? It's almost like a trap. Cora finished looking at him with new respect. Lyra nodded. That is our concern, as well. It may be that they are expecting Alliance forces. They may even be specifically waiting for us. Then why go? Greg asked. Because if the weapon is real, we cannot allow them to perfect it. Lyra said. Too many lives are at stake, including everyone. On Earth, she turned to her crew. We will proceed, but with caution. Maximum stealth protocols. The journey to the Vega system took 3 days. During that time, Greg and Lyra spent their evenings in their private quarters. They spoke of many things, of the mission of Earth of the future. Greg found himself opening up about his past. His loneliness on Earth, his feeling of never belonging. You have given me purpose, Lyra. He told her one night as they lay together. Something I never had before. Lyra touched, his face, her cool fingers tracing his features. And you have given me something too, she said. Something I did not know I needed. A connection beyond duty, beyond the warrior code. When they reached the edge of the Vega system, the Stellar Blade activated, its stealth systems becoming virtually undetectable. Greg joined Lyra on the bridge as they navigated through the debris field that surrounded the system. Perfect cover for their approach. The scanners detected Draxon ships clustered around the third planet. Greg counted at least 20 vessels, much more than intelligence had suggested. Lyra frowned. Something is wrong here, she said. They would not commit so many ships to a weapons test. Greg studied the sensor readings. Wait, he said, pointing to an anomaly. That energy signature coming from the planet. It's not a weapon. It's a mining operation. Cora finished. The sensors show massive excavation. But what could be so valuable? Lyra wondered. They have stripped many worlds. Why concentrate so many forces here? Greg had a sudden realization. I need to see the elements they're extracting, he said. Can we get a spectral analysis? The science officer complied. After a moment, a display of chemical elements appeared. Greg pointed to one specific signature. There. That element. It's called uranium on Earth. It's radioactive. We use it for weapons and power generation. Lyra's eyes widened. They are mining materials for nuclear weapons. The Draxon have never used such technology before. Their weapons have always been energy-based, Cora added. Why change now unless? Greg said slowly they aren't planning to use them themselves. Unless they're planning to make it look like someone else used them. He looked at Lyra with growing horror. Earth, the Draxon, are mining uranium to build weapons that will appear to be human-made. Lyra quickly grasped the implications. They could attack Alliance worlds with weapons that appear to be from Earth. Frame your species as the aggressors. It would turn the Alliance against Earth. Greg said Earth would be destroyed before it even knew the Alliance existed. We must stop them. Lyra decided. We need proof of this plan. Something to take back to the Council. Getting that proof would not be easy. The Draxon mining facility was heavily guarded. Lyra assembled a small team for a covert mission. Greg, Cora, and 2 specialist warriors would take a shuttle to the surface, while the Stellar Blade remained hidden in the debris field as they prepared for the mission. Greg checked his combat suit, now fitted with Arcturian armor. He carried an energy blade and a stun weapon, only to be used if absolutely necessary. Lyra had cautioned. The mission was stealth, not combat. Before they boarded the shuttle, Lyra took Greg aside. Be careful, she said. Her usually commanding voice soft. This is your trial, but I would not lose you to it. Greg touched her face, a gesture he had learned was deeply intimate among Arcturians. I will return, he promised. The shuttle descended to the planet, surface using the mountains for cover. They landed 3 kilometers from the mining facility. The team would approach on foot to avoid detection as they moved through the alien landscape. Greg felt a strange sense of calm. His training, his enhanced body, his purpose all came together. He was ready for this. The facility came into view, a massive complex carved into the side of a mountain. Draxon guards patrolled the perimeter, their reptilian forms moving with predatory grace. Greg had never seen a Draxon in person before, only in holographic displays. They were larger than he expected, standing nearly 8 feet tall with scaled skin and eyes that glowed red in the dim light. Cora pointed to a service entrance less heavily guarded. That is, our way in, she whispered. The team moved silently, using the rocky terrain for cover. When they reached the entrance, one of the specialists used a device to override the security systems. The door slid open, revealing a dark corridor inside the facility. Greg and the team moved like shadows, avoiding Draxon patrols. They reached a central computer terminal. Cora connected a data extractor while the others stood guard. Greg heard footsteps approaching, heavy Draxon footsteps. He signaled to the others. 2 guards coming their way. The team took cover as 2 Draxon guards entered the room. Greg held his breath as the reptilian aliens paused, sniffing the air. Their sensory abilities were keen. One guard moved toward Cora's hiding place. Greg knew they would be discovered in seconds. He made a split-second decision. He stepped into view, away from the others. The guards spun, weapons raised. Greg raised his hands, showing he was alone. The Draxons spoke in their harsh language. Greg understood, thanks. To his translator human, it said the word filled with disgust. How did you get here? The first Draxon rounded the corner of the crashed shuttle. Greg steadied himself, his broken leg throbbing with pain. The reptilian alien was massive, its scaled skin a dark green under the alien sun. Its red eyes widened at the sight of Greg, a human. It growled in surprise. Greg held the energy blade in defensive position. More Draxon appeared behind the first, at least 6 of them. They raised their weapons. Wait. Greg said, his translator converting his words to the harsh Draxon language. You want to know how a human got here, I can tell you. The lead Draxon paused, curious. Despite their aggression, the Draxon were known for their intelligence, their need to understand their enemies. The Arcturians brought me here. Greg continued. They plan to frame humans for attacks on the Alliance. I can help you stop them. The Draxon leader tilted its head suspiciously. Why would you betray your allies? Greg forced a bitter laugh. They are not my allies. They abducted me. They experimented on me. Look at what they've done. He gestured to his clearly altered body. The Draxan commander signaled the others to lower their weapons slightly. Speak human. This gave Greg the moment he needed. He activated the shuttle's emergency beacon hidden in his armor. The signal would reach the stellar blade, alerting Lyra to his position. He just needed to keep the Draxan talking long enough for rescue. The Arcturians have a battleship hidden in the debris field. Greg said, they sent us to gather intelligence on your mining operation. The Draxan hissed in anger. How many Arcturians? 4, including myself, Greg lied. All the others are dead in the crash. The commander barked orders to his soldiers. They will search the area. They will find your companions if you lie. Greg knew. Cora and the others would be well hidden by now. The Draxan commander approached him closer now. You will come with us, human. You will tell us everything you know about the Arcturians, their defenses, their plans. Greg was pulled roughly to his feet. He cried out as weight fell on his broken leg. The commander smiled cruelly at his pain. Humans are weak, it said. You will break easily in interrogation. They dragged Greg toward their transport. His mind raced, searching for options. He needed to delay them further, give Lyra more time to respond to his beacon. The ground suddenly shook beneath them. A blinding light filled the sky. Greg closed his eyes, knowing what was coming. The Stellar Blade's main weapons fired precise, devastating the Draxan. Transport exploded in flames. The commander roared in fury, raising his weapon to Greg. If I die human, you die first. Greg struck with speed born of desperation and genetic enhancement. Despite his broken leg, he drove Chorus Energy Blade into the Draxan commander's chest. The alien fell backward, eyes wide with shock. More weapons fire rained from above, precision shots taking down the remaining Draxan. A shuttle descended rapidly. Lyra herself leapt out before it fully landed, rushing to Greg. You are injured, she said, concern replacing her usual warrior stoicism. Greg managed a smile. Nothing that won't heal. He handed her the data Crystal Cora had entrusted to him. She and the others should be about 2 kilometers east. They have the rest of the evidence. Lyra signaled to her team. Some went to find Cora, others secured the area. Lyra herself helped Greg to the shuttle. Your second trial is complete, she said as they lifted off. You sacrificed yourself to ensure the mission succeeded. The Council will be pleased. Greg looked at her. Your approval means more to me than the Council's. Back aboard the Stellar Blade, medical staff tended to Greg's injuries. His enhanced healing meant his leg would mend in days rather than weeks. Cora and the other team members had been recovered safely. The mission was a success. Lyra joined him in the medical bay once they were safely away from the Vega system. The data you recovered confirms our worst fears, she said. The Draxan were indeed planning to use Earth technology to attack Alliance worlds. We have prevented their immediate plans, but the threat remains. Greg sat up, wincing slightly. What happens now? Lyra sat beside him. The Council has reviewed the mission reports. They are impressed by your actions. She paused. There is to be a gathering of Alliance leaders. All member species will attend. The Council wishes you to address them as Earth's representative, to warn them of the Draxan threat, to begin the process of bringing Earth into the Alliance. Greg stared at her in surprise. Me, I was just a mechanic 3 months ago. Now you want me to speak for all of humanity. Lyra took his hand. You have proven yourself in combat in loyalty and courage. Who better when they returned to Arcturus? Prime Greg was summoned to the Council chamber. He stood before the elders, still limping slightly from his injury. Greg Walshvexer. The High Elder began. You have passed both trials. We recognize you now, not merely as the consort of Commander Vexer, but as a warrior of Arcturus in your own right. She gestured, and an aide brought forward an ornate armor chest plate similar to Lyra's, but with subtle differences. It bore the symbol of Earth alongside the crest of Lyris. House. Greg accepted the armor, with a formal bow as he had been taught. The elder continued. In 3 days' time, representatives from all Alliance worlds will gather here. You will address them as the voice of Earth. This is a great honor and a great responsibility. Greg nodded. Understand, High Elder. I will do my best to represent both Earth and Arcturus as... Greg left the Council chamber. He found Lyra waiting for him. She touched the new armor with pride, the first human to wear the armor of an Arcturian warrior. She said, "There is one more thing the Council did not mention." "What is that?" Greg asked. Lyra's expression grew serious. "Before you address the Alliance, we must return to Earth. We must warn your leaders. We must begin preparations for Earth's defense." Greg hadn't expected this so soon. The thought of returning to Earth filled him with mixed emotions. Earth had been his home, but it now seemed distant, strange. He had changed so much in these months. The journey to Earth took 7 days. During that time, Greg prepared his address to the Alliance leaders with Lyra's help. The ship they traveled on was smaller than the Stellar Blade, but still impressive. A diplomatic vessel with less weaponry, but more comfortable accommodations. As they approached the solar system, Greg felt a strange sensation, a tightening in his chest. Earth appeared on the view screen, a blue marble against the blackness of space. His homeworld now looking so small, so vulnerable. "We will approach under stealth," Lyra explained. "We cannot risk causing panic. Your world is not yet ready for open contact. We will land near your hometown. Approach your government officials discreetly." Greg nodded, staring at the planet below. So much had changed since he had left. Once he had been nobody. Now he returned as an ambassador between worlds. They landed at night in the same forest where Greg had first encountered Lyra. The ship's cloaking technology, keeping it hidden from Earth's primitive scanning systems. Greg now wore Arcturian clothing that had been modified to resemble Earth fashion, though nothing could disguise his changed physique. He stood taller, his muscles more defined, his posture that of a warrior. Not a mechanic, Lyra would remain with the ship for now. Too alien to walk openly among humans, Cora and 2 other Arcturians who could pass for human with minor disguises would accompany Greg. They took a vehicle from the ship, a craft that had been modified to resemble an Earth car, though its technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. Greg directed them to a government facility in the nearest major city. As they drove through his hometown, he looked at the familiar streets with new eyes. Everything seemed smaller, somehow simpler. He saw humans going about their lives, unaware of the cosmic threat looming over them. At the government building, security guards stopped them. Greg showed identification he'd once carried. The guards looked suspicious, noting his changed appearance, his confident bearing. "So different from the man in the ID photo. I need to speak with someone in authority." Greg said, "It's a matter of national security." The guards might have turned him away, but Cora used a subtle Arcturian device that influenced human minds. A simple suggestion that Greg was trustworthy, important. They were escorted to an office. A woman in a suit approached. She introduced herself as Agent Claire Winters from National Security. "Mr. Walsh," she said, checking his file. "You were reported missing 3 months ago, and now you return with an urgent security matter." "Care to explain?" Greg took a deep breath. "I know this will sound incredible," he began, "but Earth is in danger. There is an alien empire called the Draxon. They have targeted our planet for resource extraction. They will arrive within months unless we prepare." Agent Winters stared at him, her expression unreadable. "Aliens," she said flatly. "You expect me to believe this?" Greg nodded to Cora, who activated a holographic projector disguised as an ordinary briefcase. A 3-dimensional image appeared showing the Draxon fleet, the mining operation. The evidence they had gathered. Agent Winters stepped back in shock. "What is this? Some kind of trick?" "No trick," Greg said. "This is real, and there is more. We are not alone. In facing this threat, there is an alliance of worlds. They want to help us, but we must act quickly." For hours, Greg explained everything. The Draxon threat, the Alliance Arcturus, his own transformation. He showed Agent Winters the data they had collected. She called in others, more officials, military personnel, scientists. They asked countless questions, demanded proof. Greg provided everything he could. The technology he carried, the genetic changes to his body, the data from the Vega system. Finally, they seemed convinced, or at least willing to consider the possibility. "We need to speak with your president," Agent Winters said. "This goes beyond my authority." 6 weeks had passed since Greg returned to Earth. In that time, everything had changed. Earth governments had moved from skepticism to cautious acceptance to active preparation. The evidence provided by the Arcturians was undeniable. Draxon Scout ships had been detected at the edge of the solar system. Greg stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship, the Defender, Lyra beside him, along with Earth's military leaders. They watched as the combined fleet took position, a mix of Alliance vessels and hastily upgraded Earth ships. The technology exchange had progressed faster than anyone expected. Earth scientists and engineers proving remarkably adaptable. Once they understood the basic principles of Alliance technology, they made innovations of their own, some that even surprised the Arcturians. In 6 short weeks, humanity had advanced centuries. Military satellites now carried energy weapons. Defensive shields protected major cities. Fighter jets had been retrofitted with alien tech. Earth was still vulnerable but no longer helpless. Greg looked at the tactical display. The Alliance Council had committed a significant portion of their fleet to Earth's defense, a gesture that surprised even Lyra. "They see your potential," she had explained. To Greg, humans adapt quickly, learn quickly, fight with unexpected strategies. The Council believes your species will be valuable. Allies. Greg had returned to Arcturus Prime briefly to address the Alliance leaders. His speech had been simple, direct, passionate. He spoke of Earth's history, its struggles, its determination. He promised that humans would stand with the Alliance against the Draxon, that Earth's resources and ingenuity would strengthen them all. The Alliance representatives had voted unanimously to offer Earth provisional membership, protection now full status once the immediate crisis passed. Now the moment of truth approached. Long-range scanners detected a Draxon battle group entering the solar system, larger than expected. Nearly 30 ships, including a massive command vessel, Admiral Cora, now promoted after the successful Vega mission, stood at the command console. "This will not be easy," she said. "They come in force. Earth cannot fall." Lyra replied, "The Alliance cannot afford to lose this world." Greg studied the approaching enemy formation. Something about it bothered him. The Draxon were tactical masters known for complex strategies. This approach seemed too direct, too obvious. He pointed to the display. "Their formation is wrong," he said. "They leave their flanks exposed. It's like they're inviting us to attack from the sides." Lyra looked closer. "You are right. It is unlike them." Greg thought back to his training. The lessons in Draxon tactics, unless, she said slowly, "A trap." Lyra finished. "They expect us to attack the flanks where they have hidden resources." Greg nodded. "We need to scan those regions of space more thoroughly." The enhanced scans revealed what the Draxon had hoped to hide. Additional ships, cloaked, waiting. In ambush. Had the Alliance fleet attacked as expected, they would have been caught in a devastating crossfire. Admiral Cora looked at Greg with respect. "You have keen eyes," she said. Then to her tactical officer, "Prepare a new attack plan. Target their center directly, ignore the flanks." The Alliance fleet moved into position. Earth ships integrated with alien vessels, creating a formation the Draxon had never encountered before. The humans had suggested it. A variation on historical naval tactics, adapted for space warfare. As the fleets closed distance, Greg felt a strange calm. He had come so far from his simple life as a mechanic. Now he stood at the center of humanity's first interstellar battle. His enhanced body hummed with energy, his mind clear-focused. The battle began with a blinding exchange of energy weapons. Space itself seemed to warp with the power being unleashed. The Alliance strategy worked initially. The direct assault caught the Draxon off guard. They had committed too many resources to their planned ambush, but the Draxon adapted quickly. Their massive command ship moved forward, unleashing weapons more powerful than intelligence had suggested. Alliance ships began taking damage. Some of the Earth vessels unable to withstand such firepower despite their upgrades were destroyed. Greg watched grimly as the battle unfolded, the tactical display showing losses on both sides. He felt each lost Earth ship keenly, knowing how many of his fellow humans had just died. The command Ship the communication center to their entire fleet, Lyra said. If we could disable it even temporarily, it would throw their forces into disarray. Greg studied the massive Draxon vessel. Its defenses were formidable, but there appeared to be a weakness. A section where the shields fluctuated slightly with each weapon's discharge. There, he said, pointing to the spot. If we hit it with enough concentrated firepower during that fluctuation, we might break through. Admiral Cora shook her head. We cannot coordinate enough ships to deliver that kind of focused attack. Not in the midst of this chaos. Greg thought for a moment. Then he turned to Lyra. We don't need the entire fleet. He said just the Defender and a small strike team. The plan came together. Quickly, the Defender would approach the command ship under cover of the main battle. A smaller vessel would launch from its bay carrying a strike team directly to the identified weak point. Once there, they would plant destabilizing charges that would disrupt the Draxon shields and weapons temporarily. It's a suicide mission, Admiral Cora warned. The team would likely not survive. I will lead it, Greg said without hesitation. Lyra turned to him sharply. No. You are too valuable as a liaison between our worlds. Greg met her gaze. I am a warrior of Arcturus now, he said, quoting the High Elder. My place is where I can do the most good. He touched the armor. He wore the symbol of Earth alongside Lyra's house crest. This is what I was chosen for. Lyra wanted to object, but she knew he was right. Instead, she said, I will accompany you. Admiral Cora protested. Commander Vexer, you cannot risk yourself. Lyra silenced her with a look. My consort goes to battle. I will stand at his side. The strike team assembled. Quickly, Greg, Lyra, Tarek, the combat instructor, and 3 elite Arcturian warriors. They boarded the small assault craft as the Defender moved into position, as they prepared to launch. Greg looked at Lyra. Their eyes met. No words were needed. Both understood. This might be their final mission. The assault craft shot from the Defender's bay, immediately going to maximum speed. The larger ships provided covering fire, drawing Draxon attention away from the tiny vessel. They approached the command ship from below, using its own bulk to shield them from detection. They would have seconds only to attach to the hull near the weak point impact. In 3. Tarek called 2-1. The craft shuddered as it connected to the Draxon ship, magnetic clamps securing it in place. The team moved quickly, donning space armor. The plan was simple but dangerous. Cut through the hull, plant the charges, retreat before detonation. Greg activated his cutting tool. The alien metal resisted but yielded to the advanced technology. Within minutes, they had created an entry point. Inside, the Draxon ship was hot, humid, designed for its reptilian crew. The corridors were massive, scaled for beings larger than humans or Arcturians. They moved silently, following the path memorized. From scans, they encountered resistance as expected. Draxon soldiers responded to the breach. Greg and Lyra fought side by side. Her skill with an energy blade was unmatched. His enhanced strength and speed made him nearly her equal. Together they carved a path forward. Tarak and the others placed charges at key junctions, each one precisely calculated to create a cascading failure in the ship systems. They reached the main power conduit, the final and most important target A's. Greg placed the last. Charge alarms blared through the ship. A security team had discovered them. They turned to retreat, finding their path blocked by Draxon warriors. We must fight through, Lyra said. There is no other way. The battle was fierce. Greg felt a burning pain as a Draxon energy weapon grazed his shoulder. Beside him, one of the Arcturian warriors fell. Tarek roared in fury, cutting down 2 Draxon with a single sweep of his blade. They fought their way back toward their entry point. More Draxon appeared, the odds worsening with each passing second. The charges, Greg shouted to Lyra. They are set to detonate in 2 minutes. They needed to reach their craft before then, or they would be destroyed, along with the Draxon systems. A massive figure blocked their path. The Draxon commander, its scaled skin adorned with battle trophies, its red eyes fixed on Greg, the human who infiltrated our mining operation. It growled, I should have killed you when I had the chance. Greg recognized the commander from the Vega system, the one whose chest he had pierced with an energy blade. Apparently, Draxon were harder to kill than he thought. You fight alongside aliens against your own kind. The commander said. You are a traitor to your species. Greg raised his weapon. Earth has chosen its allies, he replied. The Draxan offered only destruction. The Alliance offers partnership. The commander attacked with surprising speed for its size. Greg parried the blow, but was driven back by the sheer force. Lyra moved to help, but was engaged by other Draxan warriors. Greg found himself alone against the commander. The reptilian alien was stronger, using its massive bulk to force Greg into a defensive position. 1 minute. Until detonation, Greg knew he could not defeat the commander. Through strength alone, he needed strategy. The training with Tarek came back to him, the forms, the disciplines, the weaknesses of larger opponents. He feinted left, then rolled right, coming up behind the Draxan. The commander turned quickly, but not quickly enough. Greg's energy blade found the gap in its armor, the same spot he had struck on Vega. The commander roared in pain but did not fall. Greg woke to the sound of strange music floating through the air. He opened his eyes to find himself alone in the alien bed. The events of the previous day came rushing back to him. He was on an alien world, married to an alien warrior woman. He sat up feeling different somehow. His vision seemed sharper, colors more vivid. He could hear conversations from what must have been several rooms away. His muscles felt stronger, more responsive. The genetic modifications Lyra had mentioned must be taking effect. Greg got out of bed and found clothes laid out for him. A fitted bodysuit similar to what the other Arcturians wore, but adjusted for his human proportions. He put it on, surprised at how comfortable it felt. Like a second skin. Lyra entered the room, her silver hair pulled back in a warrior braid. You are awake, good, she said. Your training begins in 1 hour. How do you feel different? Greg admitted. Everything seems clearer, louder. Lyra nodded. The first stage of adaptation is sensory enhancement. Your body is becoming more attuned to your surroundings. It will help you survive here. She led him to what appeared to be a dining area. A table emerged from the floor, holding several containers of colorful substances. This is nutrient paste, she explained. It is formulated for your transitioning physiology. It may taste strange, but it will sustain you. Greg tried the blue paste. It tasted like blueberries mixed with something spicy. Not unpleasant, just alien like everything else hereafter. Eating, they left their quarters. Greg followed Lyra through corridors filled with other Arcturians. Many stopped to stare at him. Some looked suspicious, others curious. A few even bowed to Lyra and by extension to him. They entered a large open space that reminded Greg of a gym back on Earth, though the equipment was unfamiliar. Several Arcturian warriors were training using weapons and hand-to-hand combat. This is the training arena, Lyra said. Here, you will learn to defend yourself and fight like an Arcturian warrior. She gestured to a tall male Arcturian with green skin. This is Tarek, our combat instructor. Tarek circled Greg, eyeing him critically. So this is the human consort. He said, his voice deep and rumbling. He looks weak. Lyra smiled. Do not judge by appearances, Tarek. The human has potential. Tarek grunted. We shall see. He handed Greg what looked like a short staff. Begin with the basic forms, he instructed. Position 1, Greg tried to mimic the stance Tarek showed him. His newly enhanced muscles responded better than expected, but he still felt awkward and uncoordinated. For 2 hours, Tarek drilled him in basic combat forms. Greg fell repeatedly, but each time he got up and tried again. By the end, he was sweating profusely, but had managed to learn the first 3 forms, not entirely hopeless. Tarek admitted, which Greg took as high praise. Next, Lyra took him to another section of the station, a room filled with holographic displays and strange devices. This is the Knowledge Center, she explained. Here you will learn about our history, our culture, our technology. A small Arcturian female approached. Her skin was pale, almost white, and she had delicate features. I am Nira, she said. I will be your knowledge guide. For the rest of the day, Nira showed Greg holographic displays of Arcturian history. He learned that the Arcturians had been spacefaring for over 10,000 Earth years. They had formed an alliance with 7 other species, creating a coalition that spanned multiple star systems. The Draxan Empire had emerged 3 centuries ago, conquering and strip mining entire planets. Their technology was advanced, but their true advantage lay in numbers. They bred quickly and cared little for individual lives, seeing them as expendable in their quest for resources. Earth lies in their expansion path, Nira explained. They have already scanned your system and identified it as resource-rich. Your species would be enslaved or eliminated. Greg felt a chill at these words. Is there no way to stop them? The Alliance has held them at bay, Nira said. But we are losing ground. Each year they push our borders back. Each year we lose more worlds. By the time training ended, Greg was exhausted both physically and mentally. His head swam with alien history and combat forms. When he and Lyra returned to their quarters, he collapsed onto the bed. Lyra sat beside him. You did well today, she said. For a first day, Greg looked up at her. Why me? He asked again. There must be billions of humans. Why choose me specifically? Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she touched a panel on the wall. A holographic display appeared, showing what looked like DNA strands. Your genetic structure, she explained, contains markers we have only seen in ancient Arcturian lineages. Specifically in the bloodline of the warriors of Vex, my ancestors. Greg sat up staring at the display. What does that mean? It means Lyra said that your ancestors may not have been entirely human. That sometime in Earth's distant past Arcturians may have visited your world. Some may have stayed. Greg tried to process this information. So I'm part alien, perhaps Lyra said. Or perhaps it is merely a remarkable coincidence. Either way, it makes you uniquely suited to be my consort, and perhaps to help bridge our worlds. The next morning, Greg found himself in a different training room. This one contained various pieces of technology. Lyra stood beside a stern-looking Arcturian male. This is Zenith. Lyra introduced him, our technology specialist. He will teach you about our systems. Zenith did not look pleased with the assignment. Humans are primitive. He muttered. I doubt he can comprehend even our basic systems. Greg felt a flash of annoyance. He'll try to keep up. He said. Zenith began with what he called simple devices, communication tools, environmental controls, navigation systems. Each was far beyond anything Greg had seen on Earth, but to his surprise he found he could understand the basic principles. His enhanced mind seemed to grasp concepts more quickly than before. By midday he had learned to operate several Arcturian devices. Zenith looked grudgingly impressed. You learn quickly for a human. He admitted. After the technology session, Greg was taken to meet with a group of scientists. They scanned him extensively, monitoring the genetic changes taking place in his body. The lead scientist, a female named Vela, seemed excited by the results. The adaptation is proceeding faster than anticipated, she told Lyra. Your consort has remarkable cellular plasticity. The Arcturian sequences are integrating seamlessly. Is that good? Greg asked. Very good, Vela replied. It means your body is accepting the changes without resistance. You will be stronger, faster, more durable, and your lifespan will be significantly extended as the days passed. Greg fell into a routine morning combat training followed by technological education, then history and culture lessons. In the evenings, he and Lyra would talk. She would tell him about her missions, her life as a commander. He would tell her about Earth, about his former life. Gradually, something unexpected began to happen. Greg started to feel comfortable in this alien world. More than comfortable, he began to feel at home. And something else was happening too. He was beginning to have feelings for Lyra. Not just respect or gratitude, but genuine affection. One evening, as they watched the stars from their viewport, Greg turned to her. I never asked you something important, he said. Why did you really choose me? Was it just genetics? Lyra was silent for a long moment. When I scanned your world, I saw many humans with compatible genetics, she admitted. But when I saw you, I saw something else. Something in your eyes. A loneliness that matched my own. A feeling of not belonging. And I thought perhaps two beings who don't belong might belong together. Greg reached out hesitantly and took her hand. Her fingers longer than his skin. Cooler to the touch. I think you might be right, he said. That night Greg realized that despite all the strangeness, despite being light years from Earth, he was happier than he had ever been on his home planet. Here he had purpose, here he had respect, and here he had Lyra,